What is going on? Celso Oliveira, section 128. Another episode. Eric, what's this? Like 3 episodes in like 7 days? And we got another one on Monday. Of course, our big show will be on Monday, but today we have to break down what happened yesterday. And of course, we have we have a guest, Tectonic Takes. Devin's going to be joining us here and talking about San Jose Earthquakes, one of the best in the league, one of the best teams, definitely in Western Conference this year. Excited to play this game this
Don't sleep on that team.
Do not sleep on the team. We'll talk all about it. But first, our friends from Fugazi, as usual. All right. First and foremost, once again, the David Martinez giveaway is live. All you have to do is follow our channel here on YouTube and comment anywhere. And I mean anywhere. It could be on Eric's social. As long as you follow here, you're in. And that means you're going to be, at the end of the month, entered to basically win this card for free. I'll ship it to you for free, no problem, as long as you live in the United States. It's signed, it's autographed by him, the biggest LAFC stars to come out of our, the young guys. So again, so if you're interested, please just follow us along. And of course, put your comment in there with David Martinez's jersey. So we'll have a guest right now. About 5 minutes, join us. But first, Eric, how are you, my friend? Once again, together, we had a quick show at halftime yesterday. I can't believe I'm talking to you again.
Yeah, man. I mean, we talk every day. Let's be honest.
We do.
But no, man, I feel great today. We passed the test yesterday. The boys passed the test. We move on through Cruz Azul. I was pleasantly surprised to watch Nashville beat Club America at Azteca as well yesterday. So a very strong showing by MLS. And man, I'm super happy. Super happy we're going to see the semifinals. Just waiting to see if we're going to be the home leg or away leg, which we'll find out after we watch Carson play later.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling. Actually, I don't know what's going to happen there. I have a feeling Toluca is going to go through. That's my pick there. But, again, it's Concacaf. Everything can happen. Carson got to score 2 goals away and narrow that difference, and now has that advantage of playing at home with the 2-goal away advantage, which is important, as you saw yesterday, for example. Of course, we're not going to be breaking down the Cruz Azul game too much today. The focus of this show is really the preview of this weekend's game against the Earthquakes. But at the same time, we have to at least comment on the fact that LAFC is through here. So, Eric, how you feeling, man? I know there was confidence in both of us given the first leg, but overall, what did you think of the game yesterday? LAFC ties late to basically not lose, which is great, and get through to play either Toluca or LA Galaxy.
First off, I think for all of the new fans and especially the Sunny fans who have migrated over to our league, that match was pretty close to peak CONCACAF. And when we talk about getting CONCACAF, we almost saw it happen with that game. We had an official who was very inconsistent, who put a lot of really bad calls against us. When the other team would follow us in the same manner, those were not called. And, Denny Bouanga got yellow carded for basically getting fouled. And so he will miss the next game. Martinez.
Well, he got carded for reacting to the foul, which is always a bad idea because that's exactly what they're trying to do. They try to get a reaction.
It was
a great smart player. You shut the fuck up, right? But he chose to complain.
His foul was a flagrant foul on him. I actually posted the play before where he sombreroed the first guy, nutmegged the second guy, and then got hacked.
Got
and so
jacked.
he was upset at getting hacked. And
Yeah.
I don't think the guy who hacked him was even carded for it. So it was
No, it was not, it was not a card because it's considered shoulder to shoulder. I even commented on that. And again, a lot of people closed in.
Well, that was a separate. That was.
Oh yeah, you're right.
was a
You're
whole
talking about
separate
another incident.
Yeah,
There were
so
many incidents.
anyways, yeah, that's it from the ref. Everybody who watched that game saw it. The ref was horseshit and definitely biased against us, but we overcame it. Previous editions, we couldn't. Last thing I need to say is Hugo Lloris is your 2026 LAFC MVP. I don't think there can be any doubt. He had a 1 minute long highlight reel of saves yesterday that we couldn't get ready. Maybe we'll play that next Monday just to look at it. And man, what a stud Hugo Lloris is. Proud of the boys. They overcame all of the mental. This game was a big mental challenges, and they went through it. So that's all I got on that. What do you got before we move on to San Jose?
Oh, bro, like, look, it's we did the job. We got out of there without losing. The referee was a factor, yes, but at the same time, I feel like his major mistake was awarding the penalty and then VAR confirming it. I thought that was really the most horrendous thing he's done all game. He tried to control the game with cards early against Cruz Azul. I thought that was effective because those guys came in late all the time. And, they were hungry for, something to happen. And, he was administering yellow cards like consistently within the first 10 minutes. He's a FIFA referee that is going to be representing Concacaf in the World Cup. I think that's concerning. And I think that's partially why they upheld the call, because they didn't want to make that dude look bad, because that was a horrible call. But hey, we get through. That's all that matters, really. And now we have Devin or Devon. I'm assuming it's Devin. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. It's Devin. How's it going, boys?
Yeah, good. Thank you for joining. We got Devin joining us from the Tectonic Takes, a great podcast, an old school podcast that has revealed some of our most prolific journalists in this country, like Fabian Ranko. And, again, they've been a stronghold of the independent, or Justin Ruderman. I believe he was there as well. So these guys have been at the forefront of covering Major League Soccer for a long time. So I have a feeling we're going to have a really good discussion here, boys. But look, we're not just an MLS show, and I am going to throw a curveball at you guys and at the same time do some self-promotion about myself. On Twitter yesterday, I made a comment about FIFA basically banning the practice of tailgating. And if Eric and I have something in common, is that goddamn we like a tailgate party.
We love tailgating.
That is the thing that makes the game the thing. And like Devin, I'm going to ask for your opinion here as well. But in a very genuine moment, I just had some thoughts, and it honestly caught some motion on Twitter. And, that thing got a lot of views. So I'm going to play it here real quick, and I'm going to ask you first, Eric, to just comment on what tailgate means from an LAFC standpoint, and what have we been able to do and build from that experience alone. And then we're going to go break this game down. So first of all, let me just hold this real quick, and then we can basically talk a little bit about this clip that I, again, put this out there. So here we go.
Need to understand is that you cannot ban tailgating, because if you would do it in a public place, it's outside of FIFA's jurisdiction, and then they cannot enforce wherever the hell they think they can enforce. Now, they can, within their premises, essentially say, hey, you're not going to be just partying here, bring your own alcohol, because we want you to consume our own alcohol. And I understand that. They're trying to make money. I understand that part. But if you've been in the United States, like I've been since 1999, you would understand that if you're here, tailgating is an instrumental part of the culture of this place. And it's what makes sports successful. That's where the camaraderie develops. And suddenly we're not going to have that for the World Cup, because it's not really an American event. It's a foreign event being held in America. It's different. And as someone that's lived in a place where the World Cup is everything, and now in the United States, I can tell you that it's very different. It's very different. But at the same time, people need a place to drink, to have fun. And you can do it in a public place, or you can do it in a bar. You can't do it in FIFA premises. But define FIFA premises.
All right. That's enough. Okay. So I go to you, Eric, because my point is this. Like, I loved, and everything that I've developed as far as being an LAFC fan has been through tailgating and has been through being a fan next to you and just getting to know the guys that are always at the stadium. And I get it. It's just 1 month that we're going to do this World Cup thing, but I'll start with you. Talk about what you've gained from the years that you were at tailgating LAFC. And again, you don't have to comment on FIFA's decision, but the importance of that 1-2 hours before the game when we all get together and we're just there to hang out as fans.
Yeah, I love tailgating. It's as much fun as the game is. You go out, you hang out with all of your fans, and I don't know if Devin, you've been down and seeing LAFC tailgate, but we have a pretty good tailgate down there. There tends to be mariachi bands, DJs, kids playing soccer, grilling, and it's basically as good as the match. And I think it's a great contribution that Americans have put into sports is the tailgate. It's a very American thing. And, tailgating should be held up by FIFA for whatever reasons. I know I did see USA Today article. A lot of this they're saying is about security perimeters and parking is greatly reduced and they're encouraging public transportation. So it's just another bullshit excuse, honestly. And part of the whole, FIFA's a greedy organization, and this World Cup, I think we all see as a blatant money grab. So tailgates, which could be great, is just another casualty of this.
Well, and again, Devin, I go to you because I'm trying to explore what is the fan experience like at San Jose. It's a team that's been around the block for a very long time, has some loyal supporters for a very long time. So describe to me some of the atmosphere that you have pre-game, some of the friendships you may have made going to games. How is it going to a game at PayPal Park and getting to see the same people over and over again?
Yeah, specifically at San Jose, we have multiple parking structures. We have 2 dedicated outside lots specifically for our supporters groups. 2 separate supporters groups each have their own section for tailgating. It's actually a really wonderful experience. You walk in, greet everyone, say hi. Everyone's extremely welcoming. I think in the forefront and the essence of the World Cup as a whole, though, the World Cup doesn't have a dedicated culture. There's no dedicated culture to FIFA at all because it spans from country to country on hosting events. And if we want to take drinking alcohol, consuming alcohol, or just respecting and accepting cultures, we go back to 2022. What did they do for Qatar? They restricted alcoholism or alcohol in specific dedicated places because they respected the culture in Qatar. Mm-hmm. In America, what is the most popular thing to do in every American sport? Basketball, baseball, football, soccer. It's tailgating. And tailgating involves, drinking, having fun with friends. I think if you want to expand on that culture respect, then I think, FIFA needs to respect the American culture and allow us to tailgate at every World Cup, because that's what it's like here. And no other international fan from other countries will come over here and experience that if FIFA is going to restrict that, which is really funny because, it's like a small tangent, but, I saw an article that said that FIFA blamed states for the restriction of tailgating, but I'm in the back of my head I'm like there's no way states are going to ban
there's too many rules, too many different states.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Too many states, too much culture acceptance of tailgating. So like, why all of a sudden now ban it?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Eric, you got something to say?
They're no strangers to tailgating, but anyways, I know you guys at San Jose, you have your Open Cup match against Phoenix Rising, which I have to say you guys got to be favorites to win this whole thing looking at your form. I like to see the Quakes lift something, man. I was going over San Jose's results, and man, what a tear are you guys are on right now. You're just kind of dominating the West, and I think with everything going on, MLS media has kind of sucked up the atmosphere or all the oxygen, and nobody's really giving you guys your flowers that you're probably deserving right now. So tell us about 2026 San Jose Earthquakes versus previous Earthquakes.
This is an unknown team. This feels like a foreign team to us. Watching these games week in, week out, and getting these shutouts and getting these wins, being 6-1-0, like we have no idea exactly like what to experience week after week, because this isn't something we're used to. We're used to being like 2-5 and something at this point. So finishing off every week with at least a clean sheet, it's something that LAFC fans, you guys have experienced this more than us, at least just one more per game, because I think you guys have had a clean sheet every single game of the season apart from one. I think we've had 2 games where we haven't had a clean sheet, but we've conceded both the same amount of goals, 2 goals. So, walking into this game on Sunday, I feel like it's like almost a David versus Goliath situation. 2 good teams defensively, 2 good team offensively, producing on both ends. I was talking about this with my boys on Tectonic Takes. We just finished recording on Monday, but I think we kind of discussed this. Like, one of the ways to win the game is to win the midfield battle, because obviously we both have good defense, good offense. I think to find the best production of both ends, we need the midfield to succeed, whether it be from LAFC or the Earthquakes.
And then we'll talk about Timo Werner a little bit, because I want to see, like, is he playing more of the mid, or is he really playing up front and like opening up the goals, and like who is your midfield? But shout out to Daniel Brito, Brazilian goalkeeper, that has just basically been a monster wall for San Jose Earthquakes this year. I had a pleasure to interview Daniel. He's a great guy, was really ostracized in Brazil, as many players do when they get here, and has just really become one of the best goalkeepers in this league. So let's start analyzing position by position. And since you brought up goalkeeping, what are you seeing from Daniel this year? Maybe it's a better defense in front of him. He's not having to work so hard for those clean sheets. But Daniel, to me, has become one of the best goalkeepers in this league. What are you seeing from your camp?
Yeah, I think it's like what Eric said right before I hopped on. I think both of our goalkeepers are like consistently man of the match performers. Insanely talented players, and I think Daniel benefits not getting as many shots on target against him than last season, because we have a great defense. And I think Jack Skane pointed that out in the last press conference, and he said that we haven't had the speed like we've had in 2026 to defend as well as, against players like Denny Buonga, who's just got an abundance of speed. So now we can compete against the top teams in MLS based on that speed alone. And it's something that not many, casual fans really get to think about. So having, players like Daniel Muni, Benji Kikanovic, Reed Roberts, and, formerly, until he got injured, DeJuan Jones, it's nice to have that pace back there, because now Daniel kind of gets to relax for maybe 70, 80 minutes at a time now in the game, rather than, taking a shot every 15 minutes.
So
yeah, and of course we're going to talk about. Hold on, Eric. I'll pass it to you in a minute. Of course, we're going to talk about coaching, because Bruce Arena has basically has a lot to say with what is going on here. But Eric, you go ahead with your comment. But the question to you really is: who has an advantage goalkeeping wise between the 2 squads, and who do you expect to be busier this weekend between these 2 top teams in the West?
Is this to me or Devin?
Yeah, that's it. That's to you, Eric. So you can go ahead with your thought that you had before. And the question then is, given that we're talking about goalkeepers, who do you feel has an edge in this game? Is it Hugo Lloris, which you praised in the beginning of our show, or Daniel Brito, which is having a season to just remember with some of the performances and the clean sheets?
I think Lloris is probably going to be a little bit busier on this one. And with such a game we had last night, I'm not sure what emotional level the boys are going to have to go at this. I don't know if there's going to be some rotation or not. So I'm not really sure what to expect from us, but I do suspect that Hugo Lloris will be a little bit busier.
Okay, Hugo Lloris then is going to have the edge in this game, and we'll see if he maintains the clean sheet or not. So, Devin, back to you. As far as the defensive side of the ball goes, a lot of changes. Rodriguez, another Brazilian, leaves the squad, right? And he was kind of a liability out there, if I'm not mistaken. And loved to go up, scored some goals, but I felt like he was very reckless at times. So, what are you seeing as far as differences between last year? And again, go ahead to talk about the coaching differences as well, that has basically changed how the San Jose Earthquakes team is defending. They lose one of their best players offensively and still turns out to be better at everything, including defense. So what's going on defensively that's make the Quakes just pop this year in 26? I'm sorry. Yeah, in 26. My bad.
As much as it hurts me, I think I'm gonna have to revert back to the Levi Stadium game last year against LAFC. And like you said, the fact that we don't have Rodriguez in the back line, I think Rodriguez was a huge detriment to the reason why Heung-min Son and Buwanga and a bunch of other attackers managed to score so early, because he kept pushing up the field and wasn't defending the way we want him to defend. I think this season, now that we have Benji Kikanovic as a starting right back, something that you see in a much different context that you'll see, in the LAFC game is Benji's pace is going to match Buwanga's. And I think, this is what we had talked about I had talked about as a huge key to the game this Sunday, is the matchup between Denny Buwanga and Benji Kikanovic, because both have insane speed. And, Kiko, as we call him, hasn't conceded a goal from his side of the field just yet this season. So, we also locked up Wilfred Zaha in preseason, just as small evidence that he's hanging there with the big boys. So, if you're going to look into the game this Sunday, I think a really big key matchup to watch is on that right side, or your left side.
On the left side was Denny Buwanga, usually exactly, the side we overload, which means that there might be some openings for LAFC there on that right side, which usually features Martinez. We saw Nate the Great playing in the middle and sort of drifting right as well. But we've also seen LAFC just put everybody on the left to facilitate things for Denis Boanga. So we will skip the midfield for now. But what do you think of this particular wrinkle, if you want to say that the left field of the right field of the San Jose Earthquakes might be locked down, and there might be very little that Denis and those guys can do there? What do you think of this?
Well, I kind of want to actually shift gears for a second, because
Go ahead.
And what you said earlier, what I wanted to ask about was Bruce Arena as a coach, who I've long thought is probably the best American coach in history. At least that's where I rank him. But looking at what San Jose's done, you started out 3-0 against KC, 2-0 Atlanta, 1-0 in Philadelphia. Your one loss was at home to the Sounders, who, the Sounders are always
one of the best teams in the league.
Very solid team. Mm-hmm. You then beat Vancouver in Vancouver. You whooped San Diego 3-0. San Diego with another one of their many red cards, and then Sporting KC 3-1. My one question, Bruce Arena is a good enough manager. He has many different styles. How does he have San Diego tactically set up to attack? How does your good buildups look like? And what kind of philosophies does your defending look like? Just big picture tactically. How does Bruce have you guys going?
At least in terms of defense, defending, something that we've noticed early on in the season is, we have a trigger press system. And it's a very high press, team press, trigger press system. So if you pass, say, for example, Luis has the ball and he passes it to one of the wingbacks or the fullbacks, immediately you're going to see that our players, our front line and midfielders will trigger press and overload that side into the corner until those, the player on the ball kicks it into the middle, whereupon one of the Earthquakes players will pick it up and immediately counter through the middle. That's one of the defensive structures that we've seen so far, and we've scored a couple of goals off of that already. In terms of the buildup, it's kind of staggered. It's unpredictable, which I guess Bruce likes to hold a lot of that information to himself, despite the fact that we've attempted so many times in press conferences to at least shed a little bit of light. But he's very secluded on that. But in terms of attacking, I see a lot of build up through the widths, but also at the same time, Nico Sakaris, Bo Luru are extremely unique and keys to our midfield presence for the Earthquakes, specifically because they're just really good at holding onto the ball, creating space, holding up play, doing what's necessary to distribute wide and create space for others, not just for themselves. So, I can't really give you an exact answer As to our attacking piece, we're still kind of studying that. But in terms of defense, it's a very high pressing system. And I think that would be a big key for LAFC, who's already do an excellent job with, creating space in small spaces, finding the passes in small spases and escaping those high press zones that I've seen in other LAFC games.
So how do you think tonight's game? Sorry, I'll just ask real quick. How do you think tonight's game impacts the game of this weekend? You have a massive game here starting in about 5 minutes, but we're going to let you go then. What do you expect this game, and whether the weekend game will carry some consequence of what happens tonight?
I think we're going to see some rotations tonight. I don't see many of our starting players starting tonight. I know we've got a very slim depth. Unfortunately, we don't have as many players. We let go about 8 or so guys in the off season and only picked up like 2 or 3 at most. So our depth is very light. So I can see some guys starting, a lot of our back line, and maybe some midfield players, but we're a very thin stretched attack. So I don't see many of our attackers rotating. I know we just got Timo Werner back from injury over the last 2 weeks. He may start tonight, get a couple of minutes, and then sub him out at halftime and save him for the LAFC game. But we're not really sure. Really sure.
Eric, I go to you with the last question for Devin and your predicted lineup, your predicted rotated lineup. I guess you're calling it rotated. I don't call it because there's no game after that. So I think it's going to be a full lineup as long as everybody's healthy. But go ahead with your lineup and last question for Devin.
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the lineup. I think there's I'm just not sure. There's a part of me that thinks we're going to rotate a little bit of our lineup, but I'm not 100% sure. But what I would like to see out of LAFC definitely is it's going to be Nico Tafari.
Maybe Aaron Long gets some minutes here, or since he was available at the bench.
I don't think. No, I think Long's gonna be on the bench.
In at the end of the game, perhaps.
But I think Hollingshead is going to start for Segura over on the left. Part of the altitude with those guys. And I think Clancy on the right. The midfield, I think we're going to go with Delgado, Tillman, and Jude Terry. I think they're going to start Jude Terry again, just to give him some minutes. And then up front, I think it's going to be Bouanga, Son, and I think they're going to put Ordaz in for Martinez as well up front. So I think those will be our rotated pieces. Lloris and net, although I can honestly, after that last game, see him getting a rest. Although with Hasal's broken / dislocated nose, I don't know if they want to put him in, but he could be in with a Batman mask. Who knows?
Was that over the weekend?
I don't think so, man.
No, that was last weekend. He collided with Artem Smolyakov, who had gotten kind of pushed by
by the opposing player. I forgot who it was, but it was kind of a scruffle, and he got the worst of it in Portland. Gets substituted. Cabral comes in, which is
his nose is crooked on the replay. Like you can see.
Yeah, no, it broke. It broke, and as a goalkeeper, it impacts your vision. You cry all the time because you can't see when you break a nose. So I get it, man. Like he probably won't play. I think Lloris plays. I think Lloris has no play. It's at home. It's a weekend game. They've had plenty of time to come back and spend time with their family, go back to training. After that, there's no CONCACAF game for a while till the end of the month. So I see a full lineup for LAFC going against it. But yeah, I like what you said that maybe Eddie Segura sits. However, we're playing against one of the best offenses in this league. And I guess that's my question to you, Devin. What are your feelings about this weekend game? Are you confident that this San Jose Earthquake team can come into Los Angeles and give LAFC a hard time? And we've seen it before, even with different lineups. San Jose is never easy for us. So what do you think is going to happen in this game?
To give you my wholehearted opinion, I think it might finish like a 1-1 draw, given the fact that we are a high-scoring offense, and we, as in both of our teams, are high-scoring offense and a good defense. I see us creating a lot of chances outside the box because I believe LAFC do a really good job with limiting spaces inside the box and clearing it out wide to Son or Bouanga is waiting patiently out there. But also, I see us conceding a lot of opportunities ourselves. I think it's going to be a high shot game. I don't see it necessarily being a high scoring game because of Daniel and Lloris, which is why I suggest it being a 1-1 score at the end. You know, we walk away 1 point each and still remain towards the top of the MLS Supporter Shield standings.
That's a great way to call the game. And I'll go to you, Eric. Your thoughts on how the game rolls out and the final score.
I can see a 1-1, but just for the sake of positivity, I think LAFC is going to come out on top with a 2-1 on this. We've just, I think with going to Mexico and coming back, I think the team is just really locked in right now. And so I think that's going to continue. And we are very good at playing out of pressure and turning that to our advantage. So I'll have to think that we might be able to exploit it a couple times, but I think San Jose's attack is good enough that they're probably going to make us pay for one. But so I'm going to go 2-1.
2-1, the classic 2-1. That's the most popular score in a football match, and you can't go wrong with it. And I agree. I think LAFC has the edge on this game. A lot of momentum from Mexico. The team is kind of firing all cylinders. We've had a little bit more rest, even though you have a rotation and likely happening tonight. But I'm calling this a little bit different from you, Devin. I think this is going to be a goal fest. Two high-power offenses, maybe a little bit of, I want to call it a lack of attention to details will create, like you said, a lot of opportunities. And as busy as the goalkeepers will be, there will be penalty kicks, just chances you cannot miss. And after all said and done, we're going home with a 3-2 win, 5 goals, crazy game. We don't know who's going to win. LAFC survives at the death with a goal from David Martinez. Number 30, if you're competing on that card. So that's my goal. That's my call. 3-2, crazy game. But yeah, I think the San Jose Earthquakes are back. It's good to see them good. We want the original franchise, especially the ones in California, carry a lot of weight to be good. And I'm happy to see Bruce Arena manning the situation there. Oh, we found another one. Trey, you're in. And again, if you didn't catch it in the beginning, all you have to do is put a comment and follow our show, and you're automatically entered at the end of the month to a drawing of David Martinez signed card. Where's that card?
Oh,
there's that card. Beautiful card.
All right.
Autographed. What is it? 143 out of 150. So it's sequenced, even better.
Cool.
I got really nerdy with the cards, guys.
All right.
It's fun. It's fun to see it. But Devin, thank you again. Good luck on your game tonight. And appreciate you being here. And tell us exactly where we could find you for everybody that's following along. And I had a pleasure to listen to you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, boys. You can find us on YouTube, Tectonic Takes. Find us on Twitter. I think it's the same handle. And I am personally only on Instagram. But follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and I believe Spotify with the same handle, Tectonic Takes.
Yep, Tectonic Takes. One of the goodies, one of the old ones that have been following this league for a long time, understands the wrinkles within our league and what it is to be at the bottom after being at the top. That's the fun of our league, and I hope that this weekend is great. You're welcome back anytime, sir. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you guys on Monday as usual at 5 p.m. See you guys.
Absolutely, boys. See you guys later.